on the wheelchair to the top of the user's shoulder. So,
For what? I'm sorry.
come have a seat here.
She said she was reading it. I didn't hear her.
So if I'm measuring, this is going to be a
Full
narrow
support
chair
case
for you.
obtained by measuring from the top of the seat frame on the wheelchair to the top of the user's
So
shoulder.
the seat frame, remember, is down here, right? Where her hips are. You're going to find the frame right here, and that's where you start the measurement. To the top of the shoulders.
Yeah.
So if she had poor trunk control, I would want it at least 22 and a half in height. So I would want this portion here to extend all the way up to her shoulders.
So that's not a good chair for her because.
No, it's not, and I did tell her that too. Even it's very narrow for her too.
But if they had minimum, then we just measure from the top of the upholstery, back of the upholstery, so.
From the back of the upholstery.
Mhm.
So like from here to where?
Below the inferior angle of the client's scapula.
So she would be more like at 19 and a half
Mhm.
here.
If they didn't have much trunks in it.
So she has a little bit. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Nancy.
Okay. And it says to just check yourself, ensure that the client is not being pushed forward because the back of the chair is too high, or is not leaning backward over the top of the upholstery because the back is too low. We talked about armrests. You want to consider the way that the armrest is shaped. If they're going to be going to the dining room, you want them to be able to get under the dining room table. Or if it's a child, you want to make sure that they're able to get in under a desk or table. The height of the top of the armrest should be 1 inch higher than the height from the seat post to the user's elbow. Okay, then pediatrics, it talks a little bit about pediatrics. It's the same for the measurements, as far as the measurements go. You always want to measure a person's hips. So if I'm going to measure someone for a wheelchair, I'm going to measure at their hips or the widest part of their person. I'm going to measure from their hip to their knee to find out the seat depth, okay? And then as they're sitting, and depending on their support, you would measure from the bottom of the chair to either the inferior aspect of the scapula, which would be here, or at the top of the shoulder, depending on how much support they need, right?
Mhm.
And then there's some really good pictures in here of, on 251, there's like an arm trough there of a person that has had a stroke or can't use his arm.
251.
Some things that you need to watch out for when you're positioning someone is, I talked about this before, is how their pelvis is tilted. Is it posterior tilted? Or is it anteriorly tilted? So that might be something that you need to consider when you're trying to figure out a chair for them. Look at their pelvis. How are they sitting? So anterior tilt or posterior tilt. How is their trunk aligned? If you have someone who has had a stroke, someone that's had a stroke, usually they're gonna be sitting like this. How is my trunk?
Yes, okay.
Tilted to the right.
How is my pelvis? Can you see my pelvis?
It's crocus.
Posteriorly tilted.
Posterior tilt. Where's all my weight at?
Your right side.
Yeah. So that is something that you need to consider. What about my back? Am I gonna have a high back, a sling back?
High back. High back.
Okay. So look at how they're sitting, and one good way to do that is get them on a mat. You know, get them on a mat, try and figure out how they're sitting, what their positioning is like. That'll really help you with trying to figure out